I personally work with over 350 Amazon KDP publishers, and I'm going to show you exactly what I've learned. I learned 3 major things that if you apply it to your business and your mindset and the way that you run your Amazon KDP business, then your whole business will grow. Because these are core principles that I've seen from hyper successful publishers on Amazon KDP. Now, before I get into it, we need to determine what is a successful publisher, what's a hyper successful publisher, and what's a beginner or intermediate. Now, after working with these hundreds of people, I realized that, a beginner, we're going to call a beginner anyone that's doing under 6 figures a year. So if you're not doing 6 figures a year, if you're doing 5 figures a year or 4 figures a year, this is like at least in royalties, then you're still a beginner to intermediate. You're an early publisher. You're not an experienced publisher yet. So I'm going to say 4 to 5 figures a year. These are publishers that, 4 figures a year is like $2,000 a year, 3,000, 4,000, even 9,000. But again, if you divide it by 12 months, it's less than $1,000 a month. So anyone doing less than $1,000 a month, or basically less than like $5,000 a month, is in this area. And then anyone doing 6 figures a year is over here with the experienced publishers. Now, everyone has their own versions of success. I don't know why I drew a chef's hat. I wanted to draw a crown or something. Let's draw a crown. Look at that crown. Awesome. So these are the experienced publishers. These are the guys making 6 figures a year. So I'm just going to put 100,000 or more a year. Now, again, everyone's version of success is different. You might feel like you're successful if you're doing 5 figures a year. And again, that's completely fine. We're not here to talk about how to measure success and things like that. I'm just here to talk about the 3 main principles that these guys over here, they're doing, that I see these guys over here not do it. And I'm telling you, I work with over 350 publishers. I have gathered the data and I can tell you, this is what these guys do. This is what these guys do. Now, I understand not everyone is in the position that I'm in. I'm obviously extremely grateful to be able to work with all types of publishers, beginners, intermediate, and advanced publishers, because there's something to learn from everyone. I'm just going to put experienced over here. So the main thing, and I know you might click off once you hear it, but let me just get deep into the subject before you click off. Okay. So the first thing is their mindset behind certain things. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to go broad, just give me 2 seconds, right? Now, when you're a beginner or an intermediate, I'm just going to say beginner from now on, but again, if you're an intermediate, you're still placed in this category. When you're a beginner, usually what ends up happening is your mindset is still fairly small because you're not really sure what you can achieve. Sometimes you hear people on YouTube say, oh, I make $10,000 a month. And you might be thinking, yeah, but is that really possible? Yeah, but how much are you spending on ads? Yeah, but how much of that is profit, right? So these questions arise. And when these questions arise, it's like, well, for me personally, I can only talk about my personal experience, but it's like you're limiting yourself. So one person might have like a negative belief towards how much money you can make with KDP. And another person can have a positive belief, which means the person with a negative belief is going to subconsciously bring themselves down. And everything is just much smaller. Don't worry, I promise I'll explain everything. I'm not going to keep it as broad as that. But when you believe that something bigger can happen, then something bigger will happen. And I'll explain why. So over here, when you're running your business and you're over here, you're probably treating your business like a side hustle, right? If anyone tells you, hey, what do you do for a living? You probably have a main job that you consider your main job, and then KDP is your side hustle. It's a little bit of money on the side. Even if you want to retire, you're probably considering this as like extra income on top of your retirement, right? So because you're treating this as a side hustle, right? This is the important word. The word side is very, very important. Why is it important? Because side assumes that it's something small, right? You get a massive steak and you get like fries on the side. You get like a smaller portion of fries. It's on the side. So when you say side, you automatically visualize it and feel it as something small. Or when you visualize and feel something small, you have essentially small thinking. So you're thinking of this as like a small thing. Now, when you have small thinking, what happens then? Well, if you're thinking small, what comes after thought? Well, hopefully, if you have a strong enough emotion towards that thought, action will occur. However, because your thinking is small, because you're thinking of your business as like this small thing, then your actions are also going to be small. Now, I promise you, I will explain. If you have small thinking that leads to small actions, what do small actions lead towards? Well, they obviously lead to small results, right? And that's why you're stuck right here at 4 to 5 figures a year. Now, what do I mean by this? What do I mean by small thinking, small action, small results? Here's exactly what I mean. So when I work with most publishers, especially beginner publishers, and it's like their first time they're doing their book covers, or they might have been doing their book covers themselves for like a few years, here's how they usually go about doing their book covers. You tell me if this is true for you as well. Now, usually, you're probably here, and you're probably not the best at book covers, but you might have a good understanding of book cover design. So what you end up doing is you might make one, maybe two, you might even make 3 different covers, right? You open up Canva, and you'll probably make 3 different covers. Now, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to look at it, you might not be able to decide which one you want, so you might eliminate this one because you're like, this one's not that great, and then you're stuck with these 2. Great. What now? Well, usually what most beginner publishers end up doing is they start getting data from other people. What do other people think about my book cover? Now, guess what? Usually, again, I'm not saying every single time, but usually the people that they're asking, right, is like their families or their friends, or it might be colleagues from work. Hey, John, what do you think about this Asian cookbook book cover, right? And John is like, oh, that looks pretty good. And then now this publisher here is thinking, oh, you know what, maybe my book cover is actually pretty good. But here's the important thing. These guys, if you're asking your family members, your colleagues and all of them for data on your book cover, it's completely worthless, right? Their opinion is completely worthless. Now, it might sound harsh. However, it's completely true. Their opinion means nothing. Nothing. It's like your car just broke down on the highway, and then you're asking someone who knows nothing about cars or mechanics or anything about your car. What do you think the problem is? And they're like, hey, you know what? It might be the fuel injector. He knows nothing about fuel injectors. I don't even know what a fuel injector is, right? That's why this is probably a really bad example. But anyway, you don't want to ask opinions from people that don't have any sense of worth when it comes to their opinion, right? Now, another example is like if this is a princess book for kids, right? Or a princess book for girls, ages 6, and then all of these are 30-year-old men, right? And you ask their opinion is worthless, right? Why? Because they're not your target audience. So when you're doing your book cover, first of all, it's great that you have like 3 book covers and then you get to pick between them, because then it's like you go into a fruit store and then there's like 3 apples there, right? And you have to pick the best apple. If there was only 1 apple there, then you might not pick the best one, right? You only have like 1 option basically. So essentially it's like, well, you're gambling. Hopefully you go there and that 1 apple that's left is actually a good apple, which is very unlikely because it wouldn't be the last one if it was good. But anyway, the more apples there are in the store, the more selection there is for you, and the more likely you are to get a good apple. I hope this makes sense with the book cover. However, this is still small thinking, which leads to small actions, which leads to small results. What do I mean by this? So first of all, you're creating 3 book covers, right? And then you're asking opinions from people that know nothing about design, right? They know nothing about marketing, right? And then they probably don't know anything about anything that you're doing. They don't know who your target audience is. Maybe if you're doing a Japanese cookbook and then your mom is Japanese, then sure, maybe you have like 1 opinion. But again, you have 1 opinion, right? So you need another way of doing this to confirm that your book cover is good. A lot of you are going to be doing this, and it's completely fine like to start off with. However, you need to elevate to the next stage, which is what all the experienced publishers are doing. Now, here's what they're doing. Instead of actually gambling, right, on their book cover, because essentially this is gambling, right? Like it couldn't be any more gambling. You have 3 book covers to pick from. Based on your own opinion, you probably disregard 1 or 2. Now, also, if you're not a designer, then your opinion is also worthless as well. Like, you might understand your target audience, which is a little bit like you have a little bit more value with your opinion. However, if you're not good at design, or you're not good at making book covers, or this is like the 2nd book cover you ever made, great, you're probably really bad. Probably. I'm like 99% sure you're really bad. And because you're bad, obviously your book cover is going to be bad. It's just like an extension of you. However, here's what the experienced publishers are doing. Instead of them gambling on their business, they're actually treating it like a business, right? So for them, it's not a side hustle. It's not something small. It's their main business, right? Like, not for all of them. I'm not saying it's actually their main business, but they treat it like their main business. Most of my clients over here, they have other businesses to run. Some of them are currently like working, right? And they have KDP as a like extra income on the side. Again, same thing. I said side as well. Yep, there is extra income on the side. However, the way they look at their business is 100% like a real business. They treat everything like a real business. So if we go through the same scenario over here, instead of them thinking small, they think big. Now, when you think big, you take bigger actions, which lead to bigger results. Here's how the experienced publishers actually find a good book cover to publish. Now, with one of my recent clients, we went on 99 Designs. And I know what you're thinking, but Barry, what if you don't have money to pay for a book? I'll get there. Give me 1 second. But with one of my clients, they went on 99 Designs. We had around 379 different book covers to look at. We had 379 variations. Not all of them were like completely different. We might have had like 50 to 90 different variations of book covers, right? And then the rest of it was like the same book cover, but like with green text, and then with pink text, and then with purple text. So we can see different variations. So essentially we had 379, I'm just gonna say 380. We had 380 different book covers to look at. You had 3. We had 100 times more book covers to look at. You're going to a fruit store where there's 3 apples. We're going to a fruit store where there's 380 apples. What are the chances that you're gonna get a better apple than us? Very, very unlikely. Now, if you don't have money for 99 Designs, that's okay. That's not a problem. You can still make more book covers, right? Even if you're doing this yourself, you can still make more book covers. Like the money is not the problem. Your lack of skill is probably the problem. Like even if you have money and you go on 99 Designs and you know nothing about book covers, it's still going to be hard for you to actually select the right one. Unless you have something that we're going to talk about later, but I'll get to that. However, if you're still here and you're doing the book covers yourself, or you're hiring someone but you're still not quite sure on the concept, don't do 3 book covers. Try 10. But Barry, that's going to take so much work. You're running a business. I don't know what else to say. You're running a business, right? Don't try to run a side hustle. No, why would you want a side hustle? What, you want a little bit of money? You're telling me you want to put effort into making books to get a little bit of money? Or do you want to put effort into making books to get loads of money, right? You're not in this business to make a little bit of money. You might be thinking, I only want like $100 or $200 or $300. Well, great. If you make $3,000, are you going to say no to that? No. And what if it takes just a tiny bit more effort for you to make that $3,000? I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you exactly. I'm going to make it crystal clear. I promise to you. However, let's get back to the experienced publishers. Now, we go on 99 Designs. We have all these variations to pick from. From these variations, we select the 5 finalists. And then from those 5 finalists, we pick the best one. And then from that best one, we give some like small little revisions. And then we have a final cover. Great. We went through 400 different covers, right? Essentially. And then we picked the best one. So now what do we have? Now we have confidence. Why do we have confidence? Well, we have confidence because while you did 3 covers, we have 380 covers, right? Obviously, we have more confidence, just like the Apple example with the fruit store that I gave you. However, it doesn't end there. What's your next step over here with the book covers? Your next step is to get data on like which cover is the best. You want to get opinions. However, you don't want to get worthless opinions, right? That's what experienced publishers understand. You're not going to get worthless opinions on your book cover that you spend so much effort and time and money on. So what do? Well, we usually go on PickFu. Now, what's PickFu? PickFu is basically a poll. So you can run a poll. You can basically choose like 2 book covers if you want. You run a poll to people and then they pick either A or B cover. They get to pick which one they prefer. However, with every person that picks the cover that they prefer, they have to leave a small description. Why they pick that cover, right? And then that way you can get feedback, live feedback, where you can go back and improve the cover. So now you're getting loads of data. And with PickFu, here's 2 very interesting things. The first one is minimum 50 people. You can select higher, you can go 100 or 150 or 200. However, 50 is the minimum. There has to be a minimum of 50 people that are going to vote for your book cover. Now, it's okay. PickFu has their own audience. So once you run your poll, it will send it out to 50 people guaranteed. Now, here's the second important thing. Very, very important thing. With PickFu, not only do you send it to 50 people instead of like the 4 or 5 family members that you have, or the 4 or 5 colleagues, or even 10 or 20 colleagues, you have 50 people. Not only does PickFu send it to 50 people, it also sends it to your target audience because you get to pick the 50 people that see your book cover. If you're doing a dog training book, you can go inside PickFu and say, hey, PickFu, these are my 2 dog training book covers. Show it to 50 people. However, these 50 people must own a dog, right? You can literally select for PickFu, only show it to people that already have a dog. And then that way you're being shown, your book covers are being shown to your target audience. I've had 3 coffees today. I think they're wearing off, by the way. I think you can tell from the way I'm talking. But anyway, that's how experienced publishers do this. Now, which one is more likely to have a better book cover? The beginner or the experienced publisher? Probably the experienced one. But Barry, what if I don't have money for 99 designs? Just like we said, just make more book covers. Obviously, if you're brand new, okay, if you're brand new, the best thing you have is time. Now, I know you might have a limited amount of time. You might have work to do. You might have children to look after. You might have disabilities, right, that make everything a little bit harder. You might have so many different things. I understand. However, you still have time to put into book covers, right? Because you got into a business. Obviously, your business is going to require time. If you didn't have time whatsoever, you wouldn't even start a business. Again, I'm not here to discourage anyone, by the way. But if you don't have money, you need to just make more book covers. If you're brand new and then you've only made like 3 or 5 book covers, great. Go out there and make 30 or 40 or 50 different book covers. Go make book covers for books that you're not even going to publish. Just get better. You're the only one that's running the business. You are the whole business. Your mind is the whole business. So if you're not practicing book covers, which is one of the most important things, that's literally one of the most important things. I'm going to show you why. But if you're not practicing at least getting the skills for the most important things, what are you doing? What are you doing instead? You're putting the minimum effort possible, right? Because of small thinking. You're thinking small, which creates small actions, which creates small results. You need to flip it. If you don't flip your thinking, if you don't expand your thinking and think you can do bigger things, you will not do the bigger things. Maybe you might get lucky. However, it's much easier when you're conscious of the bigger things that you want. So instead of making 3 book covers, make more. If the most amount of book covers you ever made is 5, great. Next book that you publish, make 10. If I ask you right now, have you ever made 10 book covers for one book? If you're designing the book covers yourself, have you ever made 10 book covers for one book? Probably not. Have you made at least 8? No. Have you made 6? Maybe. Have you made 3? Maybe. If you made less than 3, are you actually running a business or are you just gambling? You're telling me you made 1 book cover and you're hoping this is going to sell, right? You have nothing else to compare it to. That's gambling, right? And when you're gambling, you don't have that sense of confidence, right? Why? Because you don't have data. It's all about data. I'm always going to be preaching data because it really is all about data. Which publisher has the most amount of data, right? This publisher over here. They have more book covers to look at and they have more pieces of data from customers or from their target audience telling them feedback about their book cover. And they can go and improve it or they can keep it the same if it's already working, right? They have loads of data. Because they have loads of data, they have loads of confidence. Person over here, they barely have any data. They have 3 book covers to look at and a few family members that know nothing about design or marketing or book publishing or anything, right? Very low data. So then you start getting anxiety and you're basically hopeless and you're basically gambling. Now, even if you are a beginner publisher, even if you're beginner or like a little bit experienced, again, you can still run polls. You can still ask people. Like I run a community. I basically have my own program. There's a community in there. And we had a student that just hit their first 1,000 sales in total on their account. They've never hit 1,000 sales before with one single book. And what they did with that book is they just asked the community which one of the 2 book covers they preferred, right? They used the community to run a poll. And by the way, inside the community, it's just a bunch of publishers. We got so many, I think we got like 250 publishers in our community. And then you can literally post in there, hey, I have 2 book covers. What do you think I should change? Based on people that actually understand, right? These are actual publishers. They're running businesses. They're making money from their business. They understand book cover psychology. They're part of the program. They have access to the book cover training that I have. So they understand what makes a good book cover, right? And now you can go ask them people that understand to give you feedback. Now, again, you can do that with your formatting as well. You can do that with like your A+ content. You can do that with so many different things, right? You can test and then see which one works better. But again, the more data you have, the better. Now, book covers. Experienced publishers know how precious book covers are. Book covers are so important. Now, don't worry. This whole video isn't just about book covers, I promise you. However, I'm about to show you how important book covers are. Let me redraw this. So if you've been watching me for a while, you've probably seen this before. That's a little bit bent, but it's okay. I hope you understand. So this is basically your customer funnel. Now your customer funnel is set up in 3 steps, right? First, you have impressions. Now this just basically means your book popped up on someone's screen, right? It got an impression. It showed up on someone's screen. Then you have your clicks, which means a percentage of those people that actually saw your book on their screen, they actually interacted with it and clicked on it. And then once they click on your book, they decide if they're gonna buy your book or not. That's basically the 3 main steps. There's actually more steps, but it gets a little bit more advanced. This is all you need to know. Now, check this out. If we're getting 1,000, actually no, let's do 1 million. If we're getting 1 million impressions, yeah? This is the beginner's book, and then this is the experienced ones, right? We ran a 99 design contest and things like that, blah, blah, blah. So we got 1 million impressions over here, and we got 1 million impressions over here as well, just to keep everything even. Let's say we're publishing the exact same niche, same keywords, everything is exactly the same. The only thing that's different is the cover. So over here, our cover, we made it ourselves, and we asked our parents and our siblings and our work colleagues what they think about the cover. Everyone loved it. You put it on Amazon, and it's not performing all that great. Of course, because of the reasons that we talked about. So let's say we're getting a 0.22% click-through rate. So we have a 22% click-through rate overall for our niche, for appropriate keywords. Now, this isn't the best click-through rate, but it's not the worst either. It's just very, it's like mediocre, right? And then let's say our conversion rate is really good, right? Conversion rate is the percentage of people that bought after they clicked. So let's say our conversion rate is 15%. The average on Amazon is 10%. But again, let's just say that it's 15% just to make everything even, right? So once they land on our page, then our listing convinces people to buy. A lot of them, 15% of them. So our A+ content, really good. We have a bunch of reviews, right? Description is looking good. We have like images in the reviews that show off the book and everything looks good. We have a really high conversion rate. We just need to get as many people on here as possible to make as many sales as possible. So over here, everything is exactly the same. However, the book cover is the only thing we made different. This has a 0.22% click-through rate. And let's say this one, actually, let's do 0.20. 0.20, I think the maths will be easier. I'm still going to use a calculator anyway. But let's say over here a 0.55%. Okay, so it's a little bit higher. Again, nothing crazy, not like 1% click-through rate. Again, very average click-through rate. However, this shows that the book cover is a little bit better. Now, obviously, it's better because I showed you what we did before. We looked at 380 different book covers. Now, I'm not saying my client had a 0.55% click-through rate, by the way. I'm just saying, hypothetically, I'm trying to show you how important the book covers are. Now, here's what happens. From 1 million, what's 0.2% of 1 million? I think it's 2,000, but I want to check just to make sure. Okay, so it is 2,000. So over here, we're getting 2,000 clicks, right? 1 million impressions, 2,000 clicks. So 2,000 people click for every 1 million that actually pop up on their screen. And then 15% of 2,000 is, I need to go do some more maths. Okay, so it's 300, right? So we're making 300 sales. Let's look at the other one, where the book coverage is slightly better because we actually took our time and we did our research and everything. So 1 million impressions, 0.55 for this to be 2,000. This must be 5,500 clicks. And then from that, exact same conversion rate, everything is exactly the same. Only the book cover is different. Nothing else is different. 5,500, 15%. Again, I'll have to do more maths. That's 825 copies, right? Look at how many more copies we're selling just because we actually focus on the book cover. Because when it came to the book cover, we thought bigger. We didn't think smaller. We didn't think, let me just do one book cover and that's it. Let me actually put some time. Let me put some effort. Now, here's where it gets super, super interesting. Because there's times where I'll have publishers come to me and then they're like, hey, I'm too scared to spend more than $100 on a book cover. They might have the money to spend more on a book cover, but they're too scared to buy a book cover. Now, the reason a publisher is scared to buy a book cover, because I promise you, the book cover is the last thing you should be scared to buy, right? It's the last thing you should be scared to buy. When I first started my business, the book cover is the first thing I invested in. It took me ages for me to realize, hey, I should probably pay someone because I had a big ego. I think I still have a big ego, but it's okay. But you need to, you can't be afraid to pay for a book cover, especially a high quality one. So when I tell people, hey, if you spend $400 on a book cover, you would attract better designers to design your book covers. You'll have a better book cover and then you'll make more sales. However, again, people might be scared and they're like, hey, I'm scared to spend 400, but I'm okay with spending 200, or I'm okay with spending 100. Okay, well, here's the thing. if you spend 100 or 200, you're attracting lower quality designers, right? And if it's lower quality designers, it's probably lower quality book covers. Now, not 100% of the time, if they still follow some principles, then you're going to have an attractive book cover. But usually these guys just want to get your money and leave, right? They don't really care about you unless you actually find someone decent. So you're going to have to go do the hiring process correctly. However, check this out. Check this out. Let's say we're doing $5 profit, right? Per book. We're doing $5 profit for every book that we sell. 300 times 5 is 1,500. So the beginner publisher is making 1,500. How much is the experienced publisher making because they actually cared about their book cover? Well, 825 times 5 is more calculator. Let's go. Okay, it's 4,125, right? So check out the difference. Just the book cover, by the way, we changed nothing else. We have the same marketing here, same amount of reviews, same amount of everything, same ads, same everything. Look, the ads are bringing us the same amount of impressions, right? The only thing that's different is we actually cared about our book cover, right? We actually put effort into our book cover. Now check this out. The difference between this is $2,625 a month. This amount of money is what we're missing every single month. What we're losing, not losing, but is opportunity cost. How much we could have been making extra if we cared about our book cover, right? Now check this out. People are scared, publishers are scared to spend $400 on a book cover. Now again, I'm not saying you have to spend $400. I'm not saying you can't get high quality book covers for $100 or $200. You can. However, again, you have to be a better designer yourself so you can distinguish between bad and good. If you can't, then I mean, I'm sorry, you're by yourself. You're gambling, right? You're gambling your business. You're not running on data. Now, if we understand the value of the book cover and how much we could be missing out on because our book cover might not be as good, then now you can understand that, you know what, if I spend 400, man, if I see this, I would spend 700 on a book cover or 600 or 500, right? Because now I understand how valuable the book cover is. If you can't attract attention, your book cover is the first thing people see. The first thing they see, they search dog training book for beginners and your book pops up. The cover is what they see. So if you come to me and then you say, hey, I want it for free and I'm really bad at book covers, it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot. Is that the right thing? I think that's the right analogy. But yeah, you're making it really, really hard for yourself. Now don't worry, even if you don't have money, I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. But check this out. We're missing out on 2.5K a month essentially. And if we times that by 12, which is a year, right? We're missing out on around 30K a year, right? We're missing out on 30K a year because we decided to do a lower quality book cover instead of a higher quality book cover. Everything else is exactly the same. The book cover is the only difference. And the book cover alone can increase the amount of money you're making. That's why I preach book covers. Now, again, I'm not here to sell you anything, but if you're part of the program, I have the best book cover module by far. Like I have the best training material for book covers by far out of any gurus out there. I don't know if I'm even allowed to say that, but I don't care. I know it's true. So there we go. Anyway, I think we established how important book covers are, right? So if you think your book cover can get better, go out there and do it yourself. Oh yeah, I promise to tell you what to do regarding your situation. Okay, so there's many different situations you can be in, right? The first one is you have money, you have a bunch of money, you don't have a lot of time. If you have money, pay someone to do it. Pay someone a good amount, go and find them, either 99 Designs. I would recommend you run a contest at like $400 or above. Super, super good. You'll attract high quality designers. But yeah, if you have money, go pay designers. Run a contest on 99 Designs because you get so many variations to pick from, just like the fruit store that we said. If you find someone and you're like, hey, I like this style, I want to work one-on-one with this person, again, that works as well because you found something that's good and it resonates with your target audience and all of that. So if you have money, just pay someone, as simple as that. Also, if you don't enjoy the process of making book covers and you genuinely hate making book covers or you're not creative or you just basically just stay blank, great. Go and pay someone, right? Because again, I'm treating you as if you're running this like a business. If you're running this like a side business, I don't know if my channel's for you, right? You'll still get value from it, but I'm here to help you run a business and make money, right? I'm not here to help you make $50 a month or $100 a month. Here's how to make a bad AI coloring book that makes $50 a month. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to show you how to run a real business. So if you don't enjoy doing the book covers, pay someone to do it. Because if you're trying to do something that you don't enjoy, it's gonna result in a bad result. Nah, that's terrible English as well. If you don't enjoy doing something, the output of that is gonna be worse than if you did enjoy it, right? If you had to cook and you hate cooking, then the food is probably not going to taste as good and you're not going to put as much effort into it or as much love into it as possible. But if you love cooking, if it's your favorite thing, you're going to make the best dish in the world because you care about it. You're going to be more meticulous. Now, if you're going to do this yourself, if you're going to do a DIY book cover, so you're going to go on Canva or Photoshop and you're going to physically create the book cover yourself, if you're not experienced in design, or actually even if you are experienced in design, do a minimum of 10 different book covers. Now, by the way, when I say 10 different book covers, I don't mean one book cover with like the layout like this and then just change the color of the font and that's the second one, and then change the color of the font again and that's the third one. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about 10 completely different book covers, right? 10 completely different ones. Now, this might seem like overkill, right? And I get it, because if you're here on the small thinking mind, you're going to think it's overkill, right? Again, I'm not here to like be like, oh, I'm better than you. Or you get me, nothing like that. I hope that's not how I come across. But if you're over here and you're still thinking small, if you hear 10 book covers and you're like, oh, but that's a lot of work, welcome to running a business. So what you're going to do is make 10 book covers. The first 2 or 3 book covers is going to be easy for you because it's like you have ideas and things will start coming to you. Maybe on the 6th or 7th one, you start running out of ideas and you're going to think, well, what else can I do? That's where the magic happens, because after like the 7th book cover, you're forced to expand. You're forced to like do something different, right? And when you're forced to do something different, you start to play around with the elements a little bit more. You give yourself a lot more freedom. So one of the things that I see the beginner publishers do is like they'll only stay within the margins of the book cover. So they'll stay within the frame of the book cover. They won't have any elements bleed off the cover, right? But bleeding off the cover is really good, right? Because it expands the environment of the cover. It makes the cover look bigger. There's a bigger environment, right? So if you don't know what I mean, let me see if I can find a book that I can show you. Do I have anything that bleeds off the edge? Yes, I do. Awesome. Okay, so I have this book right here. It's called A Street Cat Named Bob. So if you're like a not so experienced book cover designer, then you'll probably have the guy in the middle, right? You wouldn't want him to bleed off the edge. But these experienced people, the experienced designer, you can see this is a left aligned book cover. So all the text is aligned to the left, right? The text is only on the left. And then the guy, he's bleeding off the edge. Can you see? His face is still here, right? You just can't see it because it's cut off. That's bleeding. However, if you're still inexperienced, you might not even be conscious of the bleeding, right? So again, if you're doing 10 book covers, you're forced to do different things and you're going to be forced to figure things out yourself. If you're not part of my program and you don't have access to the book cover design masterclass, just go on YouTube, learn something about design. Just learn anything about design and implement it to your book covers. Any sort of knowledge and action will be good. Now, the final person is the not creative person. So you can do it on Photoshop. You have access to Canva. You want to do it yourself. You don't want to spend money, but you're not creative at all. Here's what you do. Super simple. First, you're going to copy, right? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go online, look at your competitors, do the exact same cover. Do the exact same cover, like exact same cover, right? Try and find the exact same font, exact same placement, put the exact same main image. If you can't find the same main image, just find something similar, but try to replicate it as closely as possible. You know when you see those Rolexes, you can see fake Rolexes and real ones, and there's some fake ones that look 100% like the real one. That's what you want to do with your book cover. Go out there, copy a book cover that's obviously selling. Don't copy someone who's not selling, because what's the point in that? Copy a book cover that's selling, right? And then what you want to do is once you've copied it 100% and you're like, hey, this is basically the same cover, or it can look a little bit different, but that's okay. Then you want to iterate, right? What does iterate mean? Iterate. So iterate means change things. So now you have your base layer. When people say they're not creative, it's just because they're trying to start from scratch, right? If I give you the cover and then it has all the layers, now you can start playing around with it. Now you can start iterating. So try a different color background. It doesn't work. Go back to the original, try a different font, try a different layout, use the same elements, different layout, try a different main image. And again, you can try 10 different variations, because that way you copy something that already works, you iterated it, you made it yourself. So you made it unique in a way, and then you have 10 different variations to pick from, so you can pick the best one, right? I hope this makes sense. Write it down because I'm about to wipe the board. Man, that's just like the first point. This is going to be a long video. So my camera just died. So if you see the lighting completely changed, that's why. It's a different day today. But anyway, let's continue. What's the second point? Now, let's say that you were a private chef, right? You're like a professional private chef. I don't know if you've ever seen these private chefs where they're like, they get paid to do custom meals, things like that for like private people. So let's say you are a private chef, right? And then you have to serve this family. There's like 4 people. It's like one of these people's birthday or something. And you have to think about what to cook so they can have the best birthday in the world. Because obviously they're paying you a bunch of money to cook for them. Now the question is, what are you going to cook for them? You can cook any meal you want. What are you going to cook for these 4 people? They paid you a lot of money to give them a private meal. What meal are you going to cook for them? Now, if you answered anything, if you told me any meal whatsoever, you're wrong. Because there's one step that you completely missed. Now, the whole point of you being a private chef isn't for you to cook what you want for these people. That's not the point. The point is for you to understand who these people are, right? What if this guy has allergies? What happens then? Well, you never asked him in the first place. So, pow, that guy's already dead. What about this guy? What if this guy's a vegetarian and then you start cooking like chicken or something? You're going to destroy their whole birthday. Why? Because you didn't even consciously think, okay, let me cook a meal for these people, right? This is what successful publishers do as well. They don't think about themselves and what they want to make. They think about their audience, because at the end of the day, you're creating a product for someone else, not for you. If you're making something for you, you're the only one that can buy it. You want to make one sale. Not a very good business to run. So we need to understand our target audience first. I'm going to put this down. Understand your audience. If you don't understand your audience or your customer, then how do you even know what you're making, right? You're making something out of nowhere. You have no data to look at. And just like we said, data is the most important thing when it comes to running a business. Now, what really, really successful publishers do is they're very like meticulous with what they're trying to find. They're trying to find as much information as possible about these people. Because the more information they have about their customers, the people that are literally giving them money, then the better product they can create. Right? Because they're going to create a product not for them to be like, oh, look at me, I have a book and hopefully it makes money. There's no hoping. They're making a product where they know exactly what's inside the product is appropriate for what these people want. Obviously, this is a family, this is a chef, that's not what I'm talking about, but I hope everything makes sense. So when we're publishing a book, we're not publishing a book that we want. We're publishing a book that other people want. Now, in order to publish a book that other people want, we need to figure out what they want, right? And that's super, super simple. I'm not going to take anything away. Nah, I'll take this away. But the easiest way to figure out what people want is just to read their reviews, basically. Because these people have already bought books from your competitors. So all you have to do is go on the reviews, and then the reviews are going to give you everything you need. Just by reading the reviews, you can figure out exactly who your target audience is. Now, what are some elements that we need to know? Well, definitely their gender, right? Why do we need to know their gender? Well, when you're making a book for women and a book for men, it's completely different. It's 2 completely different people. Now, you also want to know their age, right? Again, when you're making a book for a 5-year-old, for example, it's different than for a 12-year-old, or it's different for like a 30-year-old, and it's different for a senior, right? Everything is different. So we need to know the gender and the age. Now, with the reviews, sometimes you might not figure out the gender, but there's times where people will leave a review and say something like, I bought this book for my uncle. Great. Well, the uncle is probably a male, hopefully. You can read the reviews, and then sometimes when they buy books for other people, you'll know the gender. Again, you'll know the age. If you read the reviews, sometimes they leave little hints as to who people are buying the book for. Sometimes people buy the book for themselves. Sometimes they buy it for other people. But again, you want to know their gender. You want to know their age. This is the basic, right? You can't build a book just from this. You need more information. Some of the information you might want is their problems. You need to figure out what are their problems, right? What's their situation? What does their life actually look like right now? What do they want to change? What's their desires, right? And you can figure it all out from the reviews, because the reviews are telling you everything. They're also telling you what's good about the books that are out there, what's bad about the books that are out there. So you're getting all this information of what type of book to make based on what's good and bad out there already, and then also who you're making it for. So now, if you know what you're making and who you're making it for, you can actually start creating a book for someone that's going to give you money. Not just for yourself, out of like your own mind, right? I hope that makes sense. Now, here's where this gets super, super powerful. When you have all this information, and it might take a while for you to gather it, but obviously it's one of the most important pieces of information that you can have because everything else gets destroyed. This is the foundation information. If you don't have this, everything else is like average. If you have this, then you can actually start building up on top of this information and start creating something that's actually high quality. If it's high quality, people want to buy it. Now, when we understand the gender and the age and their problems and their situations and their desires and as much information about them as possible, then here's what we can do. When it comes to making the book cover, is it going to be easier or harder if we have this information? It's going to be way easier, right? Because if we're doing a book cover and we know that our main gender is women, now we actually have a starting point for when we're making the cover. We might want to start with like pink backgrounds or purple backgrounds, or at least some colors that are more appropriate for women, right? If it's men, we might want to go a little bit more like brown or things like that. Obviously, it depends on your niche, but I'm just giving you examples so you understand the mindset. Now, age. Again, if we know that we're doing something for kids, then when we're making the book cover, we can start picking fonts that are appropriate for kids. If we're doing it for seniors, we want to pick fonts that are actually large enough, or even when we're doing the formatting inside, right? When we're formatting the book inside, when you're making a book for seniors, for example, you want to have slightly bigger fonts. Why? Because seniors usually have problems with their eyesight. So you want to have bigger fonts so they can easily read the book, right? You're always thinking about the customer. It's never about you or your book. It's about what your book does for other people. You need to understand who you're selling to. Otherwise, there's no point in you even publishing a book, right? Their problems and the situation and their desires. How does that help? Well, you're going to have to start running some marketing, right? You're going to make your book description. You're going to make your A+ content, all of that. If you understand their problems and the situation and their desires, then great. Your marketing is going to be more effective because you're calling out your ideal customer. They're going to be able to resonate with you and they will actually end up buying your book because you understand them more than them, right? Your book is telling them, hey, I understand exactly who you are. I know exactly what you're going through. I know exactly where you currently are. I know exactly what you want. And this book is going to help you. And again, copywriting, if you don't know what copywriting is, it's not the trademarks and things like that. Copywriting is the words that you use to convey value, right? So if you understand their problems and situations and you amplify your copywriting because of it, great. Your marketing is even better. Your conversion rate increases, you make more sales, and then everything just flows a lot better. So you need to understand your customer. I had this one woman one time. She came to me. She was a client of mine. We worked together for a long time. And then we published a book together. I helped her with the book. And that book ended up making a bunch of sales, like over 100 sales a day. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying, when we made the book cover, right, this book, there was a specific target audience for this book. It was a cookbook, right? And then the woman that I was working with, she knew everything about her customer. But I'm telling you, she was making over 100 sales a day. And the reason was because she knew everything about her customer. Right? I had no idea. I knew the marketing side. I knew what we had to do with the marketing side, but she did everything here. We knew exactly what their problems was, their desires, situations, everything. And then when we did the book cover, I gave her a really, really good book cover, right? A really good book cover. However, she came back to me and said, hey, Barry, we need to make an adjustment. What was the adjustment? Right here, it was like a cookbook. We had like the text and subtitles and everything. And then here there was a dish and there were like multiple things on the dish. One of the things on the dish was fries or French fries or just potato chips. I don't know what country you're from. Now, the thing is, for this book that we were making, fries was not appropriate because this was more like a healthy book. So when she took it to the designer came back, yes, the book cover looked good and the yellow fries matched with like the font and things like that. The book cover looked really, really good, but it wasn't appropriate for her target audience. And because she knew her target audience so well, she knew they would be turned off by this book if they saw fries. Because they're automatically going to think, oh, this isn't a healthy book. This is not for me. This is not what I'm looking for. So guess what she did? She sent it back to the designer. Designer fixed it, changed it. Instead of fries, added vegetables. And then great. That book went on to make over 100, I think it was over 150 sales a day in the US. Now, the same thing happened to me as well. When I was publishing one of my sneaker books, so I published a sneaker book, a book about shoes. Doesn't really matter. I'm not going to tell you the whole story. But when I hired a designer, essentially I had the text, I had like a bunch of shoes or whatever, and then I had a main shoe right here. This is not what a shoe looks like, but it's okay. I hope you get me. The main shoe looked so good to me. It looked so good with the cover, it matched and everything. And then I gave this cover to one of my best friends who was he was like obsessed with sneakers, right? He knew everything about sneakers. He knew the trendiest ones, the cheapest ones, the most expensive ones, the collaborations, who made what, when, right? He knew everything about sneakers. And then I showed him the book cover and he said, oh, that's terrible. Change the main shoe and put this shoe. He gave me another shoe, which was super, super popular. It was like the #1 trending shoe at that time. Obviously, I'm going to listen to him because he understands the shoe people better than I did. So I switched it, put it on. That book went on to become a bestseller, was making thousands of dollars a month, right? Why? Because I understood the audience. Well, I actually had a friend that understood the audience. But again, the same principle applies. And that applies to everything. When it comes to your marketing, if you understand them, your marketing is better. When it comes to your copywriting, right? If you understand the person you're selling to, your copywriting gets better. If you're publishing a book and you don't have a piece of paper or a Google Docs document or a Word document that has everything about your audience in it, then how do you know that what you're publishing is appropriate for that person? Right? Again, you're gambling with your business. You don't want to gamble with your business. Everything is out there for you. You collect the data, you sort out the data so you can clearly see what you need to do, and then you execute. It's really that simple. However, if you're struggling with KDP, it's probably because you're not doing the research required beforehand to make it easy for you to publish, right? If you're doing everything from scratch, book cover from scratch, and then all your marketing and copywriting, everything from scratch from your brain without actually understanding who you're selling to, you're making it very, very hard for yourself. But anyway, let's go on to the final point, which is one of the most important points. Now, this next point that I'm going to talk about, it's not appropriate for everyone, right? The only people it is appropriate for is if you're not lazy. Like if you're a lazy publisher, if you don't have that fire inside of you to publish, if you don't want to take this business seriously, this next point is not for you, because this is only for people that are actually genuinely serious about creating a full publishing business, an actual business that can bring in income for you. Not a side hustle, not to gamble your books, right? Not to spend like 10 minutes a week on it, to run it like a real business. This is one of the things that I've seen every single successful person do. And I'm not just talking about KDP. So just like I said, if you're lazy, please click off the video. The video has finished for you. If you're not lazy and you're genuinely serious about running your KDP business and making good money, right? Not just like a little bit of money to pay for like one bill that you have. I'm talking about a good amount of money that can actually change your life. Great. This is the easiest way to do it, right? I promise you this is the easiest way to do it. Now, if your kid wanted to learn karate, right? And he wanted to be a black belt at karate, what's the first thing you would do? You love your kid, by the way. You want them to be a black belt in karate. What's the first thing you do? They've never done karate ever in their life. Or like you see them doing punches in the living room or something. I don't know. But they're like, hey, dad or mom, I want to start doing karate, right? What's the first thing you'll do? You'll probably sign them up for karate lessons, right? Now, what if your daughter wanted to be a ballerina, right? Probably same thing. You'll probably sign her up for ballerina lessons or dance lessons or something like that. Now, what if you wanted to have the best body in the world? Not the best body in the world, the best body for you. Like you want your body to be you want to be in the best shape possible. I had 2 copies, okay? It's still, I still can't talk properly, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. If you wanted to go from skinny to like this big bodybuilder in the shortest amount of time possible, what would you do? Well, you would probably hire a personal trainer that actually knows what they're doing. Here's the thing. You might know where I'm going with this, but give me 2 seconds. The best way for you to actually reach your goals in KDP, let's say you're here, and I'm just going to assume that you're doing under $1,000 a month. I don't know if this is the under sign or the bigger sign, but it's okay. You understand because I said under. So let's say you're here, right? You're on this platform, and you want to get to this platform. Now on this platform, you're making $3,000 a month. Yep. So you want to get from $1,000 to $3,000 a month, right? All you have to do is just jump over here. You can do this by yourself, right? You can do this by yourself, and you can jump over here, and it might take you 6 months to do this by yourself. However, the most successful publishers that I've seen, they always, they have a mentor, right? Now, I know you're probably going to click off because you think I'm going to sell you something. I'm not going to sell you anything, I promise you. However, this is one of the most important things that you need to understand. You need to have a mentor. If I tell you, give me a basketball player, you're going to think of like Kobe Bryant. Is it Kobe Bryant or Bryant? I don't know basketball. Yeah, I don't watch sports. I publish books for a living. So anyway, you're probably going to think of these really, really big basketball players. Well, great. These basketball players are making millions. They're one of the best in the world, right? and they still have a mentor. They still have a coach. Now, what ends up happening when you have a coach and you have a mentor is everything is just so much faster. Why? Well, you have access, right, to information that you can't find anywhere else. Like the whole reason, if your son wanted to start karate, right, what are the chances you're going to tell him, okay, just go on YouTube and just watch karate on YouTube and then hopefully you get a black belt, right? That's insane. You would never do that. The first thing you would do is, who am I going to hire to teach my son how to do karate, right? Where is the nearest training for karate so I could send my son? And I would pay them, no problem, because I know my son is going to get better at karate if I pay the guy that's already been doing karate, right? I hope that makes sense, right? If your daughter wanted to dance, you're going to send her to a dancer that's already done it for years, right? You want to give them mentors because that's how you learn extremely quickly. Now, when you're publishing on KDP, this is you, right? This is the amount of knowledge that you have when it comes to KDP. If you're stuck at 1,000. Now, in order for you to get to 3,000, that means there's knowledge out there or there's things out there that you haven't done, right? There's things out there you haven't done. Now, here's the thing. If you already knew how to make 3,000, you would have done it, right? If you already knew, you would have done it. But really think about that. If you already knew how to do it and you took the actions to do the $3,000, you would be making $3,000, not 1,000, assuming that that's where your position are. So if you're not making the amount of money that you want to be making, isn't it logical that that means that you don't quite know how to get there? It's not clear in your mind. What better way to get there than to find someone who's already done it, right? Again, I'm not here to tell you anything. I'm just saying about you. I'm telling you, like, this is what everyone does. Everyone that you look up to has joined some sort of education program. They found some sort of mentor. Like, I had someone, they came to me, I promise you, right? This made me angry, right? It doesn't matter where you are now. What matters is where you want to go and finding someone that can help you get there. I had a client, they came to me, it was their first book, right? They never published before. It was their first book. They joined a program. They built the book. They joined my program. They got me as their mentor and we had calls together. Their first book, under 1,000 ABSR, right? Under 1,000, like, this made me angry, right? Obviously, I'm proud of them and all of that, but it made me angry because I'm thinking, wow, I had to publish like 80 books, right? I had to publish 80 different books and learn all of this, and this guy just joined the program and then he reached this. And of course he reached it because this is the amount of knowledge that you might have, and this is the amount of knowledge your mentor has. And by getting a mentor, you have access to this knowledge, right? If you stay by yourself, you're never getting access to this knowledge, right? I don't care what YouTube videos you watch, right? Even my ones, right? I'm still not giving away everything. I'm giving away like 10% maybe of like what I know. If you're in my program, I give away everything, but on YouTube, it's like 10%. Again, you can still make money from YouTube, but you'll make way more, way faster. So here's the thing. When it comes to mentors, this is what I discovered, yeah? So if you have this limited amount of knowledge, right, then you might have published 10 books, right? And then your data or knowledge data or whatever is 10 books worth. So you have 10 different touch points where you can like see, okay, is this going to work or not going to work based on the previous 10 books that I published? What a lot of people think is, okay, well, my mentor needs to have published more books than me. I get your mindset. However, your mentor isn't by themselves. They're working with other people as well. So if they're working with 10 people, if this person published 7 books, this person published 5, this person published 15, this person published 30, they still have access to these books. They still can see what the books are doing and the mindset behind the publisher, right? It's not just their books that they're getting experience on. They're getting experience from so many different other books, other publishers, other niches, right? There's not just you and them. It's you, them, and every previous client they worked with. So you're getting access to knowledge from not only your mentor, but from the other clients they work with as well. Hey, what works, what doesn't work? They probably have experience, or they might have experience in the niche that you're currently publishing. And they're going to help you avoid all the mistakes, save money, and all of that. Getting a mentor is the easiest way to succeed, the fastest way. Obviously, there's scams out there. Obviously, there's people out there that don't actually know what they're doing, but they're pretending that they know what they're doing. That's up to you. You have to do your research. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not saying go to this person, go to this person, come to me. You are a fully grown adult. You can make your own decision. Go do your own research. Find whoever's more appropriate for you. Obviously, the person that you trust the most, the person that you feel actually knows what they're talking about, you should go for that person, right? And even if that person is not me, again, I don't care if you join my program or anything. I really don't care. The most important part is that you find knowledge. Go out there, gather as much knowledge, because in order for you to succeed, there has to be this balance, right? I'm going to take all of this away. I think you're going to remember this, right? Now, the reason I'm saying that you can't be lazy is because there's two sides. There's two main things that you need to do in order to succeed, or like to actually benefit from having a mentor. Now, the mentor, what your mentor is going to do is they're going to provide you the knowledge. They're going to provide you the knowledge, what you need to do. They're going to provide you education, so you're going to know what to do. Just like if you wanted to be a doctor, right, you're going to pay for university. You're not going to pay as much as probably any program on KDP, but you're going to pay for university. If you wanted to be a dancer, you're still going to pay for your mentor to teach you how to dance, just like the karate lessons. If you want to build a body, you're probably going to pay a personal trainer. Why? Because they have the knowledge and the education. And then you're going to get the knowledge and education as well. However, that's their part done. Now, the other part is up to you. This is why you can't be lazy. The other part is you have to take action. They're not going to do it for you, right? I don't care what mentor you pick. They're not going to do it for you. And if they do, they definitely don't care about it as much as you do, right? If you're going to find a mentor, they'll give you all the knowledge and education, but you have to execute. You're the one who has to grow, right? And then by working together, you get there faster. One of the things is, well, sometimes, oh, Barry, I can't afford a mentor. Great. I've heard that many times. That's okay. You might not have the money, no problem. But here's the thing. Something that you should consider. When you do have the money, okay, this is something you should consider. Even when you don't have the money, at least try to find the money. Why? Because what ends up happening is when you have a mentor, what ends up happening is everything just gets easier because you don't have to struggle by yourself and then go in to find free things, right? You're just getting all the knowledge and education that you need, what you need to do right now. And then they even tell you exactly what actions you need to take, so everything is just faster. So if by yourself it takes you 6 months to reach $3,000, right? Great. It takes you 6 months to reach $3,000. However, what a mentor is going to do is place this box right here, and then you'll just be able to jump on this box and then get there a lot faster. And it might take you 3 months, right? It might take you 3 months to get to 3K. Great. What ends up happening now? Let's just say this mentor costs $2,000. Okay, it costs you $2,000 to work with someone on KDP or someone in business or someone that can help you, right? Here's what's going to end up happening. In 6 months, you reach 3K, and then afterwards you're making 3K consistently. Great. If you pay a mentor 2K, and then you get there in 3 months, well, now you have 3 extra months of making 3K, right? You don't have to wait 6 months, you only have to wait 3 months. So now you have 3 extra months of making 3K. So 3K times the 3 extra months is 9K, right? And even if you paid 2K, you made up, and then you're also left with 7K, right? So if you decide to go do that by yourself, you can still get there. It's no problem. You don't need a mentor to get to where you want to go. But if you want to get there faster, obviously it makes more sense. And if you do get there faster, you end up making more money faster, and you just make more money overall. But again, very, very important. You have to take action, right? The mentor can tell you exactly what you need to do. He might have done it hundreds of times. However, if you just go and you're lazy and you don't take action, do not get a mentor. Don't get a mentor. Only if you can take action, only if you're not lazy, you should get a mentor. It's the fastest way to do it. If you look at anyone in business, I don't care if it's a KDP business or like any other, even if you look at Alex Hormozy, he has his own mentors. Tony Robbins, big guy. He has his own mentors, right? If you look at all these people, whoever has a business, they usually have mentors. I'm going to say 99% of the time. It's very, very rare that someone just does everything by themselves, right? I have clients, they come in and then I mentor them. And then they're able to reach goals so much faster. And then I didn't even know it was possible to do this that fast. Of course it's possible because now they have access to knowledge and education they didn't have before. And they're willing to take in the action. They're willing to take action so they actually see the results faster, right? I had a client, they came in, they were barely making sales. And then within 60 days, they reached their first 1,000 sales. I had clients that came in, just like we talked about earlier with the cookbook, right? We did the book together. I was their mentor. I helped them. And then they were able to reach 100 sales a day. Before that, the most they ever made was like 10 sales a day, 15 maybe. So they 10x their revenue in 60 days, which is insane. I'm not saying that's going to happen to you. Of course, it depends on the action and the type of mentor that you're picking. Obviously, make sure you pick the right mentor. If you don't pick the right mentor, you messed up. That means you didn't do your research correctly, or I don't know, you just didn't do your research correctly. Make sure you research, right? And make sure you find someone that's trustworthy, and then they're going to be able to help you reach your goals a lot faster and a lot easier, because you don't have to go out there and find everything yourself. Now, if you want to go out there and do everything by yourself, then the current actions that you're taking, they're going to lead to the current results that you're having, right? If you're stuck here, you've probably been doing the same thing for the past few months, right? The longer you're stuck here, the longer you're probably doing the same thing. If you want to go here, you have to do something different. But usually, you don't know what you have to do different, which is why having a mentor is the easiest way that you can jumpstart your success, essentially. But anyway, if you want to continue watching YouTube, click on this video that just popped up here. Super, super valuable. If you want to work with me, you can just click on the link in the description. And yeah, go out there and make a bunch of money on KDP.